We're all going through a journey. Certain people call this journey a roller coaster, with ups and downs and twists and turns. If you're trying to find your way through all the chaos and obstacles of youth, it can be overwhelming. But you're not alone. We'll be sharing stories of others who've faced and overcome similar challenges, and we'll be learning how to reconnect with your faith. Culture, the traditions of a particular region. Is that what defines different people? Perhaps, but should it define Muslims? If yes, then that would make Islam a regional religion. But Islam is a universal religion. Walking the line between what is culture and what is religion can be a difficult one. But when one chooses to walk towards their faith, then it becomes just a little bit more clear. It doesn't matter if you're from an Eastern or Western heritage. It applies to everyone, all people of all background. Let's hear a story about this. So enough from me, let's get right into it.
You know, one of the beauties of what Islam represents and Ahmadiyyat is that it's supposed to be for all people and all cultures. So I think one of the big differences is that, it's easy.
Let's meet Muhammad Yousaf. He's 33 years old, lives in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and he's a born Ahmadi. This story starts way before his lifetime. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi Yousaf bhai, how are you?
Wa alaikum salam, I'm doing well.
It started with his grandparents, who were themselves searching for their faith, and Ahmadiyyat gave him that answer.
So my father is Yasin Sharif. My family is from the central Pennsylvania area, York, Harrisburg, although he was born in Baltimore. He born and raised Ahmadi. His parents converted back in the 60s. It's just kind of been in that area for a while. I moved out here to stay close. But for work purposes, I'm out towards here now. And my mom is also from the York Harrisburg area. She converted to Islam when she was 15. So born Muslim, third generation on my father's side.
What made your grandparents want to convert to Ahmadiyyat?
So I think for them, I mean, at that time, they were people that were searching for community, searching for the right faith and what resonated with them. They moved all over the country. They lived a lot of different places, were a part of a lot of different groups. And when they found Ahmadiyyat, it was something that really spoke to them and really changed the trajectory of our family for generations. As a white American growing up with a Muslim name, it had its own challenges. Well, it's a little different, right? I mean, I think, especially in central Pennsylvania, right? It's a little bit more of a rural area, but people don't expect the names that we have, especially back then. So, my full name is Muhammad Yousaf Sharif. So my family, we all go by our middle names. But yeah, introducing people was always kind of an interesting, that doesn't make sense, but okay. Yeah, no, for sure. Have you ever been in like school and you're like, all right, my name's about to come up soon. I gotta get ready. They're gonna ask me a bunch of questions. Yeah, you got to have your speech ready, especially like I said, because for me, it was a double whammy. So you have, Muhammad is what's going to be on my paperwork. But because we all go by my middle name, I say, yeah, that's me. But my middle name's Yousaf. This is how you spell it. This is how, you ask it and all that stuff. So it's a process for sure. No, for sure. I remember like when I was in elementary school, I used to spend like 3 months trying to tell my teacher exactly how to pronounce my name. And then here comes a substitute teacher. You're like, oh no. Right, and then you knew when your name's coming up, and you're like, nope, that's me. Don't even start. That's you're only here for just listening for the stutter, right? Like that. Oh yeah, that's it. It was difficult carrying the name Muhammad, but he was proud nonetheless. Still, it was hard sometimes, and Yousaf had to face difficulties due to it. So you get used to that speech from a young age of, well, that's my name because I'm Muslim. My family's Muslim. Oh, well, where's your family from? Well, we're from here as well. It's like a lot of people in central Pennsylvania, but my grandparents converted, my mom converted, so our family's Muslim. You get used to that 30-second speech. At a border one time when I was coming back from Canada, like, where are you from? Pennsylvania. No, but where are you from? I'm like, no, Pennsylvania. I was born there. Well, where are your parents from? Also Pennsylvania. And then you just wait until they finally come out and say, well, why do you have the name that you have? And it's like, well, let me explain it to you. And then you go through it. Right. And you mentioned earlier that your mom converted as well. So you have your grandparents who converted from your dad's side, and you said your mom converted. So when did she convert? I believe she was around 15 or 16 at the time.
And what made her convert?
Well, I think for her, she came from a Catholic family. She went to Catholic schooling, and in conversations that I've had with her about it, it really was difficult for her because she always wanted to go a little bit deeper into things. She wanted to understand faith. She wanted to understand why they were doing what they were doing. And in her experience, there wasn't a lot of room for that. It was, well, you just need to believe this, and you just do this, and this is how it is. And that was really hard for her. So, she searched and she looked for other ways of living life and religion. And when she found Ahmadiyya, it really resonated with her that that was something that Islam provided, was explanations and was deeper faith. And that it was the right fit for her.
Yeah, for sure. And did her parents convert, or was it just her?
No.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's something that for converts, that experience is a huge part of their life. It is really hard to go to your parents, especially in a situation like this where you're changing your name. I mean, you really are changing your identity. So explaining not just that you're doing it, but why you're doing it. And if you think about the things that really connect families together, holidays and tradition and where you come from, you're really breaking apart from that. And so for family members, it is a really difficult challenge, and there's a lot of hurt and pain there, and it takes time to try and develop those relationships and work through that. And that's part of the journey for people that do convert.
He feels that culture and religion are two different things, and that it's imperative to differentiate between the two in order to grasp the truer understanding of faith.
One of the beauties of what Islam represents and Ahmadiyyat is that it's supposed to be for all people and all cultures. So I think one of the big differences is that it's easier when sometimes to see the differences between what's Islam and what's culture. What's Pakistani culture, what's Islamic, because when you're not part of that culture, it's a little bit easier to understand. Like, oh, I had no clue that was. I never saw that. I never understood. Well, that's because that's more of a culture thing. So I think there is opportunities to see that and to have a different understanding. And I also think that it's important to understand that there are things that are American that don't necessarily fly in the face of Islam, right? There are things like being loyal and just different things about America that can translate, right? And I think that sometimes there's a feeling that that isn't the case, but when in fact that it is.
Islam is a universal religion, but one thing we always hear about is culture. We hear it almost everywhere, but one thing we have to remember is that a Muslim's identity is not what culture is, it's what Islam is.
And while you're in middle school, something happened that changes everything in the United States, and that's 9/11.
It was life-changing. For everyone. It was that day itself was very scary, not knowing what was going on. Country was under attack. As Americans, we all felt that. We were all scared. And then, the aftermath of it, of seeing how something that never registered or mattered in the same way about this huge part of who I was, religion and faith, started to be in this negative spotlight and focus and fear, and people judged it and didn't know what to do with it. It was very different. Because I'm white, people don't associate me on sight with being Muslim. So, in that way, I don't know what that experience is like to be judged just from showing up, just from being in the room, that people assume that and have that fear. I did see people that I had known for a long time, people that had known my family, turn overnight and start to kind of look at us different and treat us differently. And that was really hard.
High school is a time of many temptations, but Yousaf had a very different struggle on his own along with that he had to go through at this peculiar time of life.
Yeah, so I think, that's a hard time for everyone. If you're trying to live your life as an Ahmadi, if you're trying to live the right way, you see your friends, the people you grew up with, there's a whole new set of rules that, people are focused on completely different things. And it's hard because you feel like that's what you're supposed to want to do, that you're supposed to be doing those things and experiencing it. For me personally, I had a very different high school experience. Unfortunately, I got very sick when I was young, when I was 14. I had a heart condition and some extended health issues that really changed my high school experience. I was just trying to graduate. I had half days and I was traveling to see doctors and missing a lot of school. So, that for me kind of shifted my priorities as far as what I was really worried about. But it's really hard when the people you used to hang out with now expect a different way of acting and interacting and prioritizing what matters. It's not easy.
Did you ever feel like you were missing out a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a natural reaction, you know, and like I said, I think it's part of that is built into the way this country views those things, right? Like they put so much value on those, dating and status and
Yousaf went through so much in early life as a Muslim, finding identity, then 9/11 happened, then the health issues. How did this impact Yousaf's faith and relationship with God?
Part of the beauty of faith is that you have to experience those things. It has to be tested. And, when you work with what we have in Islam, when you read the Quran, when you study what the Promised Messiah says, and you realize that these tests are supposed to be hard and that it's worth it and you gain things from them, on the other side, it's a little bit easier to pick those things up. And if you're willing to, then that can help you prepare for the next time that you're challenged.
No, for sure.
So, you went through a lot of issues. What happened right after high school?
So high school was tough. I did manage to graduate. Like I said, it was kind of crazy. It was half days. I was taking freshman classes when I was a senior to make up stuff and all that. So I went to a community college, and I got to a point in my life where I did start to feel that I'd gotten a little bit better with my health. I was able to do school, but I wanted to make kind of the next step, in my life. Growing up as a Muslim and growing up Ahmadi and making the decisions that I did, you separate yourself from most people your own age, from the activities that you're doing. And so, I looked as part of my next step of life that I wanted to get married. So I got married when
Hold on, Yousaf, time out. You're 18, 19-year-old. You ready to take this next leap? He spoke with his parents regarding his desire for marriage, and his parents were very understanding. They themselves had got married young as well. This is a wonderful example on how to handle the situation in a true Islamic manner.
That pull of those other things in college are even worse, right? Because at the end of the day, you're older, you have more access, you easily can do things, you go places, you're away from home more. And, I looked at high school and I said, well, I got through that and I still have the faith that I have, and I still want that in my life ultimately. So, Allah does provide us a way to do this, and it's marriage. So, that was my thought process, and that's the way I went. I was blessed. I've been very close with my parents. They're very understanding people. They've sacrificed, done a ton for my brothers and sisters and I, and so I went to them and I said pretty much that. They supported me through my health issues and through high school, and I said to them, I said, look, at a certain point, right, if I want this, and I say that I have faith is such an important part of my life, and I want to do things the right way, why not get married? Like, can we come up with a plan, for me to finish my studies? We can live here, we can, and we went through it together. And at first they were a little hesitant. They got married very young themselves, so they know some of the challenges with that. But after having some conversations with it, I mean, my mom even says now, like, at some point, if your child's coming to you saying that for the right reasons, like, what else do you do but help them?
Islam stresses a timely and early marriage. It tells us this to save us from distractions and temptations in our youth. In this day and age, it's hard enough to even think about this and hard enough to talk to our parents about it. Islam stresses us to be guardians, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ has stated, "Whoever among you can marry should marry, because it helps him lower his gaze and guard his modesty." With two older siblings, you would think that they were already married when Yousaf approached his parents, right?
No.
What did they say at the end of the day? Like,
they thought I was crazy.
Me do it.
They thought I was crazy too, for sure.
Yeah.
Because the other thing too is that for us, right, it's, again, I mean, culturally, from an American standpoint, an arranged marriage using Rishtanah, I mean, it's very foreign idea. It's just like the whole process, we grew up around it, but I was the first one kind of in my generation to do it and to go through the process. So it was quite a thing, for sure.
So think about it for a second. You have a white American-born Muslim, and he's looking for an arranged rishta at 18 or 19 years old, debunking the millennial myth of early marriage.
Big step forward at that age.
So I had turned 20 just after we got married. So.
And then where were you guys living when you guys got married?
So we lived with my parents at first, because I was still a student, I was still finishing college. And, there was, again, plenty of challenges, working out family and then the international aspect. And
he was 19, she was 18. There were a lot of challenges along the way. How did Yousaf deal with them?
It was challenging. It was tough. There's been plenty of challenges along the way, and alhamdulillah, Allah has allowed us to be where we are today together and have 3 beautiful kids, alhamdulillah. But I think one of the things that really helps is if you start with a genuine feeling of I want to do the right thing, right, and you find someone else that wants to do the right thing, it makes a big difference.
In his lifetime, he has seen 2 caliphs of the Promised Messiah. Describing this relationship, Yousaf relates.
Khalifa Rabi, my grandparents actually knew him before he became Khalifa. So it was always amazing to be able to go and do mulaqats because he knew my family, and it was I just have really, really positive memories of just big smiles and candy out of the drawer, and just that was incredible. And then for Hazor today, it's something I think it's different when you're older. Because you understand the value of Caliphate in a different way, and what the benefit is, especially when you see the rest of the world, what they're going through, the challenges that they have in the Islamic world, the respect and dedication that you have is very different as an adult to the current Khalifa. So both very, very beautiful experiences. I mean, it's a crazy world we're living in, and leadership is more important than ever.
जज्बो जुनू के होंगे वो रस्ते अजीब से मिलते हैं ऐसे लम्हे भी कुदसी नसीब से गुजरेंगे जब वो प्यारे हमारे करीब से देखें.
Despite experiencing some culture shocks, Yousaf remained open-minded and speaks regarding the lessons he has learned in his very unique family and upbringing.
For people that feel out of place in this country, right? So you go to the mosque, you feel at home. You speak Urdu, you have all of your traditions and your culture. When you go out, right, when you're at work and you feel a little uncomfortable and you don't know the right things to say, and you may not feel 100% with the language, it's a real shame for someone to come to the mosque and feel that way.
Yeah.
And when you have, whether it's 3rd generation, 1st generation, convert, American, wherever they come from, if someone comes to the mosque, I think it's important that we should try to create environments where no one ever feels that way at the mosque, because that should be everyone's home. So whether it's Ijtima, whether it's somewhere else, it's a good thing to keep that in mind and try to remember that we can be a community of a lot of different people. And provide that for everyone.
Bringing together people from all backgrounds, from all parts of the world, that's the beauty of the teaching of Jamaat Ahmadiyya, under the guidance of the Caliph of the Masih. However, we must prepare ourselves for any negative viewpoints that we have. We must wash it away so that we can come with open arms under one family, Jamaat Ahmadiyya.
And Ahmadiyya, is for everyone, and we shouldn't look to any group of people or place and say, well, that doesn't work for them because they're too far gone.
Yeah, for sure.
He has 3 kids, 12, 10, and 8. Big responsibility to raise kids. A very daunting task. How can one cope with this?
One of my favorite things is the way that I get to experience things with my kids and with my oldest. We get to do things, play sports or be interested in things, and there's a small age gap. So I think just being able to share that and have it be unique is something I'm looking for. It's kind of a rare thing to have a father and son both be Khuddam at the same time. So we're looking forward to it. It should be good.
No, for sure.
Life can pose many challenges for young Muslims in America. How should we approach the problem our kids may be feeling? Yousaf says that this has to be through open communication. Excellent advice.
My fear, more than anything, is that unfortunately, the way the world is, you can make mistakes that affect the rest of your life. And I just pray that, we do everything we can to support them and to inspire them to be themselves, to where they feel like they can make the right decisions and avoid the things that can really prevent the kind of life that inshallah they will have. I think that kids are scared to talk to their parents about certain things, and then they don't know how to act or process when things do come up. So that open communication is really important. And then also try to remember, one thing I try to remember is that the things that we do every day are an example for them. So how we act and the choices we make and the things that we do, and do we take the time to explain to our kids why we're doing them? Those types of things can help establish in them that there is something bigger than just us, right? When you're not next to them, are they going to be able to make the choice that you pray that they will?
The path of finding faith is not a simple undertaking. One is always tested and tried. However, as we listen to these stories and other stories, we know that faith, perseverance, and transformation happens all across the world. We hear about these from Hazrat Khalifatul Masih in his sermons, Jalsa Salana speeches, and other occasions. Now, it doesn't matter if you're from Africa, Asia, South America, Canada, USA, UK, from anywhere. When you choose to go towards that faith, then Allah guides you. It is like the hadith that says, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, Allah says, I am just as my servant thinks I am. The journey might be different for all, but the destination's the same. Join us again to listen to another inspiring story on Finding My Faith.